Welcome to another episode of Prime Focus, a program that spotlights issues of concern to individuals, families, and communities, bringing greater awareness and education with a view to improving the lot of others through anticipated positive action. I know I said that in a rush, but I'm just so excited because we have in the house again Lillian Oliveri. Lillian Sarah Oliveri is the founder and director of Kale Accountancy Limited, based in South London, with over 25 years of experience helping businesses, from startups and schools to law firms and charities, to take control of their finances with clarity and confidence. Today on Prime Focus, we're joined by a woman who is not just an expert in numbers, but a true partner to entrepreneurs and small business owners. Known for her warm, approachable style, Lillian supports her clients all year round, offering both on-site and virtual services across the UK. She's passionate about demystifying business finances, empowering people to make informed decisions. Whether you're just starting out, scaling up, or simply trying to stay afloat, Lillian brings a wealth of experience, practical wisdom, and a genuine desire to see people succeed. Lillian, it's a pleasure to have you again join us today. And I know Kale Accountancy Limited is going to go great places.
Thank you. I hope so. I hope so too. Yeah, it's nice. Thanks for having me back again. Yes.
Okay, let's look at cash flow because it's an area that affects so many people. Why do many companies go through this, and how can they avoid it?
I think it's overstretching sometimes. Not sometimes. Genuinely, you can just be so focused on the business that you forget what's going on. And people might say, "How does that happen?" You might be just focused on the day to day that you're forgetting. Actually, at certain points of the month, that's when it clicks. Oh my gosh, I need this. Where's the money to pay this? Where's the money to pay this? And that's where planning comes in. That's where using software to help you plan ahead. And it does take time out of your day to day. And sometimes that's why it's best to have a bookkeeper in or an accountant to say, give me heads up or help me to plan going forward. So even if it's just 3 months at a time, so that you have targets to say, this is the money that I need in per month to cover these costs, because the cost will change sometimes per month. So if your VAT register, for example, you may have the quarterly VAT due at this point in time, but you have the sales coming in. You may not always, I do say, have the tax reserve accounts aside, but things happen, life happens. So you may have some of it or not all of it, but at least you have something there. But at least you're aware of it happening, and not a case of, oh my gosh, I've got a VAT bill. This is what it is. Where do I get the money from? It's about being forward thinking, using software, planning, and discussion. And it does take time as a business owner to say, sit down. I have to do it. So even this morning, I had to sit down and go, okay, what are my expenses and things and commitments that I've got, obligations I've got? Can I meet those? And it's about that sort of planning where you say, I know this is coming out this week, next week. And you have the apps again. So Starling is a great online bank. You can look at that and see what
Starling, you're right. Yeah, okay.
Quickly see what's coming in and out of your bank. And you can see projection as well. For me, I sit down and think about, well, what's happening in the next few weeks. As a business owner, you kind of know what comes out regularly. So those things, should it catch you off by surprise? It's when you have those anomalies or things just happen. For example, you might have a leak in your business property or something like that, and it wasn't planned. Hopefully you would have insurance. Okay. So you could claim it through the insurance, or you have something put aside or contingency. So using an app, another app that I really, really love is Float. That was the other one I couldn't remember the last time I did the interview. Float, It's Float. And the other one is Futurely. Futurely, I think it's quite detailed, and I probably think it's more for they say it's for small businesses, but I do, at the time when I was looking at it, it was a bit complicated for small business owners. But Float is a really, really good application, cash flow application. And Xero even have their own cash flow application embedded in the software. Okay. So you wouldn't necessarily have to go to another application. You could just use zero and do your cash flow forecast that way. But Flow tends to look at again, with AI and all this information, all this technology now, it can help you plan ahead and think about the costs that you have going through the system. So yeah, so there's software, conversations with your bookkeeper, sitting down, having a day out, just one day or half a day, just sitting down and looking at your business and saying, what's coming out of the business and have I got the cash for it? A client might have left, the big client might have left. What's left? Your business. What's the implication for your business? Because you still have the same cost. So it's just sitting down, taking some time out and just reviewing your business each month. I wouldn't put it off at all. It is quite crucial.
Wow, this is good. Have you got space for more clients?
Yes, definitely. Always have space. I said, I have my own personal targets. And my husband's like, no, you don't need. I'm a workaholic in some regards, but I do like having downtime. I like to party and whatnot. But I do love what I do. I like helping small businesses.
Right.
Yeah. So I have capabilities.
All right. Thank you. Manage expenses and grow sustainably. I guess using float would help, using Xero would help as well. Yeah, right.
And having regular conversations. And that's where having the right accountant or right bookkeeper. I know one of my clients, she sits down, anytime she sees me, she would sit down and go, okay, what's the cash coming in this week? What's happening? Because I have all these expenses and these tax obligations, what's happening? So it's good to sit down with either your bookkeeper or accountant, maybe not so much your accountant, but you're definitely your bookkeeper. And we provide those services as well, where you can sit down and go, okay, let's review our situation for the month. And there are some businesses, depending on what sector they're in, whether that's fashion, interior, builders or whatever, they can have that space or that budget to then say, let's sit down and look at what's happening this month and the next month and plan ahead. Yeah.
Awesome. Question: what steps can they take to improve cash flow? Is it try and get more business coming in or review the expenses? Because just relying on an invoice or waiting for 2 more days for this invoice to come through and all that, is that dangerous living?
It is, but it happens. And that's no fault of the business owner. It's just depending on what stages you are as a business. As I said, things happen. The client might decide, actually, I don't need this service anymore or this product anymore, and decide to leave. I think there are cases where, again, depending on the type of business that you're in, if you've got a client where they owe you quite a lot and you're heavily reliant on that one client, it could be thousands, that I'm talking thousands of pounds invoice, and it's not being followed up because you don't have, I suppose, the procedures and processes in place. You're trying to do everything yourself, and that very rarely works out. So it's good to invest or value the bookkeeper and say, can you chase up this client for me to get the funds in on time? And I think, so I think invoice to invoice, it can happen. And I understand how that happens because things change in the business, things change in the world that we live in. But this is, again, like we said, try and plan ahead. If you're at month, say we're in March now, and you haven't been paid your invoice from January, what's going on with the client? Is the client facing their own financial difficulty themselves? And then you can't then pay your expenses because you're waiting on this big client to pay your invoice. So then this is where research comes in to say, who's going to pay my price and value my service? And value my service doesn't mean they just can pay it or they accept the price, but they can actually pay it when it's due. Right. And there's a good relationship. And again, that's where I've learned as well about clients who value my service, value the price, value what I do, and therefore think there's not an issue paying Lillian's invoices because they realize Lillian is also running a business. Right. But living invoice to invoice it is hard. It happens. There's no judgment there from me because I've been in that situation as well when I first started. But I think planning is very, very key. figure out who you want to align yourself with as a business, and who's going to value your service and pay your invoices on time.
Yeah, I think that point is so important, because with my little knowledge of accounting, somebody would have said, okay, if you have all these debtors, then either you don't have a good system of following up people and all that. But I guess maybe the other side of it is, if it's possible. If it's not, then you can also renegotiate your payment terms to other people as well, based on yes, right, yeah. You've answered the next question I was going to ask. Advice on handling unexpected expenses. Plan ahead.
Yeah, plan ahead. Like I said, life happens. You may be carrying on with business, as you know, everything's fine, hunky-dory, and then the ceiling in your factory or your business collapse, or for example, we had, we worked through COVID, and then people had to be taking chairs and computers and getting new computers delivered so that people could work from home and all that kind of jazz. So life happens, but like I say, have a contingency plan. If not, then find a supplier who's willing to supply things on a longer term credit term, so that it gives you a breathing space in terms of cash flow while you operate as well.
And having a safety net somewhere, putting something aside where you can, if possible. Right. We must have touched on this issue before in your last episode on funding. What's the most realistic approach or funding option for entrepreneurs? And maybe I could add the other part of it. I think I know your take on that, on credit cards. We're on the same page.
Yeah. I think, again, it depends on the type of business that you're running. If you're running, like I said before, I use the same example, T-shirts, trainers, you necessarily won't have all the cash ready to start up the manufacturing side of things. So you may have to go to a bank and get a business loan, as long as, like I said in my last episode we did, make sure the loan is for the business and not for you to take out and buy a car or something that's not necessarily the business. It's something that is crucial for the work. It's called working capital for operating the business. So for a startup or entrepreneur, again, how you get the loan is that the bank are going to say, well, where's the business plan? Is it realistic? Where's the evidence for all of this? So having the business plan, go to the bank and get a loan. There are other ways. Unfortunately, I think there was a time when you could get a lot of grants in this country. I'm not sure what's happened.
Right.
I don't seem to see
It
grants
actually
a lot.
was something I was going to ask about that. Is it, because I do certainly remember many years ago that I'd actually get emails from one of these government agencies that would help people. Yes.
Yeah. There was a time when you could get a grant, and that would mean a grant where you get it and you don't pay it back. But it seems like grants are more directed towards, I suppose, community interest groups rather than a business owner.
Right.
Whereas in America and other places, I see things pop up on my Instagram, if I'm on Instagram, about, we have grants geared towards Black businesses. And that's, I don't think I have seen that for years in this country. So if you have a community interest group, it might work better for you in that regard, in that you could go to certain companies, certain businesses like Sainsbury's and Tesco's, depending what your business module is or what you're aiming to, what you're serving the community with, what services you're offering the community. You may get something from in terms of a grant from those type of companies, or monies for that, to support that. As an entrepreneur, it might be an investor. Now, down the road of an investor, or saying, actually, I can't do the business, so maybe I have to take on a director as a limited company. I want to then have another director put money into the business, but therefore they do it, but they get a portion of my business, a percentage of my business, because obviously they're putting money in to get shares. I would say that's fine. as long as you both go down the road of making sure you speak to a qualified legal professional about setting up contracts, because I've seen this go wrong myself with a client. They were friends, it was fine, and then things happen, and so what I would say is, I won't go into detail, but it's really important to have, if you're going down those routes of investors or saying someone and they want to have a percentage share of your business, make sure you get contracts in place to say what the obligations are for both parties, expectations, duties, percentage, what the outcomes are. If the structure changes, someone else wants to come in, what will be the implication? Or this person that came in wants to now leave. What are the implications? What are the payouts? What are the terms? So again, I'm not a legal professional, so you need to speak to a lawyer before you agree for that to happen. Make sure you have those things in place. And that's the same for an investor as well. I would definitely have an agreement in place as to what are the timelines, what are the expectations, and have those in writing, so there's no misunderstanding that could cost you down the road.
I was going to ask a funny question related to funding. What about going on Dragon's Den or Shark Tank?
That's fine. I think if you've got a brilliant product, I know someone who's got a brilliant product, and I'm not sure why they haven't gone on Dragon's Den, because I thought if they went on Dragon's Den with that product, they would snap it up. They would be fighting to be an investor in that person's business. But for some reason, they've not gone on Dragon's Den, and they have. I know they have a brilliant product, but they just haven't gone down that route. I wouldn't say no, as long as you know, again, what you want, how much percentage you want to give away for your business in order for it to succeed. I mean, look at is it Levi Roots, the source.
That's right. Yeah.
He went on there and he made money. He made loads of money, but so, and it changed his life forever. So I wouldn't say no to that. If you're happy to go on telly and do all of that, then why not?
But of course, you have to do your homework, because they might try to shoot down or shoot holes through whatever it is you're trying to. So you got to know.
Understand your market. That's where the research is. Understand your market. Understand what you're offering, what the value is to the customer, or what the value is to them.
That's right. Thank you for those pieces in terms of places that people can go to. There's a group of people, again, it may not be for a small scale, but there might be other business angels and private equity firms and things that sometimes help people. Maybe not for a small startup, unless maybe you are something in the tech industry or something like that. Right. I think you've gone ahead of me. It's some of the things I wanted to ask, because what should they be aware of before they do? Yes, they need to talk to a legal person before they get, so they don't get any hang-ups later. Right. In closing this part, Lillian, I'd really love to. I don't want to see another third session again.
I don't mind. As long as planning. Right. I know April is a busy. April and May is a busy month.
I did have some couple of questions that I wanted to throw in the area of maybe people, future business people. My take on this, I'm not into politics, although my take on it is I know government can supply jobs for everybody. So some people have to be entrepreneurial. And if people start thinking about it early, the financial literacy of it and all that. So even for maybe those in uni and stuff like that. So maybe we could have a session where you could look at that particular area. Before I come to my last two questions here, I just wanted to ask you, based on all the clients you've dealt with, if you had to talk to an audience out there about 2-3 things to help you in managing your finances or being on top of your finances, what would it be?
I think if you're an entrepreneur or just a new startup, shall we say, I think from observation, I think definitely speak to people who are in business see what they have done, the downfalls. I had that conversation probably a year later or further on the line. I should have had those conversations at the beginning. Apart from Jackie and Roz, I think it would have been great to just really talk to a lot of people, a lot more people in the same industry and sector as me. And I think that's where the research comes in. Like, is what I'm offering ready, suitable right now? Is there a market for it right now in this economy? I mean, things are so hard for small businesses right now. The government keep changing rules and putting in compliance requirements. There's a lot changing. Can I capitalize on what's happening right now? If I'm in an economy where people are holding on to their own money, whether business, whether rich, whether wealthy, you're in employment, everyone is watching the pennies. So what I'm offering, would people buy it right now? So I think have those conversations with people who are in the same line of business with you. I think another downfall, and I don't understand it, is a lot of small businesses think they can manage their bookkeeping themselves. Then they go to the accountant and say, can you do my accounts? Not a problem, but then there's issues around the fees, and then also issues around, I didn't know I had this 20,000 or 25,000 pounds, just for argument's sake, not any client of mine, but I didn't know I had 25,000 pounds corporation tax to pay. How am I going to pay that? If you were having conversations with your bookkeeper or your accountant on a regular basis, this is the information that should have been provided. You should not be with anyone, I'm going to boldly say this, where they're only giving you information once a year, and then you're now going, I've got this income tax bill, and not just the bill for the 31st of January. I've got to make a payment on account in January and another payment in account in July. Over £1,000, probably 2,000 pounds. Where am I going to get the money from? And the fact that you are not aware of that liability in advance is an issue, because it then sets you back, because you're now having to then call up HMRC to put a payment plan in place. You're already behind. So, and that's from observation. So having those conversations with a professional qualified accountant or bookkeeper, doing the research about what you're offering, is it relevant right now? Can I do it full time, or would it be a case of, let me just do this, as they say, side hustle or part time, and build it up? And I think I mentioned this before in the previous video, build it up rather than just do a quick cut off and then say go into it and you're not sure of the income or the revenue. You're still going to have your personal expenses to cover, as well as now the business expenses. So it's about being smart. It's about planning and being wise and being realistic and honest about what you're offering, and is it of value? Is it needed? Will people want it? That they would put everything away and go, yes, I'm going to go for your product or service. So those are the couple of things. I know you said 3, but I think those are the key things I would think about. And then also, again, observation, not having software. I mean, software is so accessible now, and with AI, it's making it even much easier to analyze and translate information for you. Obviously, there's caution to using some of the AI that's out there. So be wise and be, think if it's not answering, then check it out and research it again. But again, not being on top of your business finance is a really rock bad move in terms of if you want the business to be sustainable and have some longevity. So
Well, Lillian, this has been a very insightful session, as always. I think you've touched on the question I was going to ask next, which had to do with one golden rule about managing business finances. What would it be? But you've already answered that question, and thank you so much for that. You mentioned 3-4 things there, so it's important. Audience, this is something maybe you need to go back and listen to the whole thing again. This is very beneficial, and you have people in your networks who are running business. This could be the best birthday gift you could give them. Just a little piece of advice will make all the difference. You don't have to buy them an expensive gift from Harrods or somewhere. Just give them this link that will do the trick. And Lillian, how can people contact you? I mean, this is your second episode, and I'm already negotiating for a third one. So, I find your the way you come across with your advice very refreshing, very practical, and I think there are a lot more people who can benefit from this. So, how can business owners and aspiring entrepreneurs work with you?
So I have my website, kaleaccounts.com.
Okay.
I have a contact form there, and I think I might have a diary on there as well. So you can book a diary, but it's probably best to use the contact form and just reach out to me that way. If you're having trouble with that, I normally don't give out my emails, but I'm going to give out my email. It is info@kaleaccounts.com. So that's kale, the vegetable, Kale, accounts with an S.com. So that's info@kaleaccounts.com. Like I said, the website, and then my assistant colleague who manages all my social media, she manages my Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So you can reach out. Again, on Instagram, I did a lot of, when I first started, to just get promotion and get myself out there and people knowing what I was doing, and can look me up and say, well, is she talking the right stuff, or does she mean, does she really understand what she's saying? So you can look at my videos on Instagram as well. So I've got loads of Instagram and little tips and nuggets on Instagram as well. But yeah, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And on Instagram and Facebook, I'm at Kale Accounts. And on LinkedIn, it's just my name, Lillian Oliveri.
Right. What I will do is I'll put them all in the description for our audience as well. By the way, Kale Accounts, when you said like vegetable, has it got anything to do with sustainability?
No, it was just, you know what, again, with research, I thought it needs to be a name. I think I had a different name before when I operated a bookkeeping services. I remember going into a networking event and the guy said, that's a mouthful for a name of your business. And it was my initials before I got married, and then DKS.
Okay, right. Okay.
And I had to be explaining all the time. And I thought that's not a good way to represent yourself, in that people look at your logo or look at your name and go, well, what does it mean? So part of the research was, I said, well, look at all the other big companies. I may not be as big as them, but it was about what do they do. And then I did marketing in my degree as well. And it's always short, it's memorable, and you can just use one symbol, and it's just one symbol. So look at Nike, look at Apple, look at Adidas, obviously the long name, Orange, T-Mobile, EE, all those big companies. So I thought, well, kale. So I looked at kale. It's a vegetable that I like. And then I also looked at the meaning of it. And it also means money. So it used to be a slang for money in previous days. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lillian. It's been a pleasure, as always, having you on the show. And I will definitely be in touch with you for our third round in pulling together some other areas that I would wanted to pick on. And if there's one thing you want people to remember Kale Accounts for, or Lillian Oliveri for, what would it be?
I think it's a helper. I was a helper for you.
Good.
I was a support system. Yeah, I think that's the main thing. Yeah.
Right. Okay. The word I had in my head was support. So when you said helpers, I'm like, that's amazing. Yeah. Thank you. Right. Audience, if you need a helper, if you need a good support system, this is a person for you. And thank you for watching this. And please don't forget to share the video with others and let people also subscribe to the channel. Thank you.